Hey everybody. 102. That is the number of consecutive half marathons I ran, giving me a Guinness World Record in 2020. I've raced more than 3,300 miles just in the last 3 years with 4 and to bring awareness to the rhinoceros and their conservation. For as long as I can remember, I've been obsessed with rhinos. In the Eastern Cape of South Africa, I'm less than 5 miles away from a family of rhinoceros, and I visit them several times a week. The patriarch is called Chuck, named for the action hero Chuck Norris. True story. Standing nearly 6 feet tall and weighing around 3 tons, Chuck represents the pure, magnificent power of the rhino. This SUV-sized action hero makes me feel small and insignificant when I'm close to him. And believe me, these gentle giants can be every bit as badass as Chuck Norris, should the need arise. The sad thing is, every 16 hours in South Africa, a rhinoceros is killed for its horn. It's keratin, the same substance that our fingernails are made of. Nearly 550 rhinos a year are brutally slaughtered by poachers for the claimed medicinal properties of the horn. I've seen the devastation left by poachers. Sadness, despair rips through the human heart, seeing their lifeless bodies. I use my legs to run and my voice to speak up for the rhino and their conservation. And I want to encourage all of you to join me in this race against their extinction and to expand our wild places, to encourage more green spaces, and to embrace all human and animal races. Together, we can positively impact Chuck and his family. Rhinos are what zoologists call a keystone species. Just like the African elephant, the sharks, sea otters, and even beavers. The word keystone comes from ancient architecture, and it's the wedge-shaped stone at the top of an archway. It is also the last stone that builders place in the arch, and it's there to support the other stones and to enable the arch to bear the weight of the building. If the keystone is removed, the structure could collapse. Similarly, our keystone species supports our planet's ecosystems. Without them, the web of life is disturbed, unable to adapt, and the removal of that keystone in the arch of life ultimately will lead to the structure collapsing. Now, our Chuck and his family are the grassland gardeners of the wild, the giant lawnmowers. These guys eat lots of grass every day, and they keep the grasslands beautifully mowed. The antelopes go there because they prefer the shorter grass, and they love the wide open spaces the rhinos create because they can see the predators like leopards and lions from far away. But Chuck and his family don't only keep the grasslands neat and tidy. They also keep waterways open, and they create spaces for plants and insects like the dung beetles. So the dung beetles roll the rhino dung into balls, lay their eggs in it, and feed their babies with it. Tasty. And have you guys seen the oxpecker birds hitching rides on the backs of rhinos? They are eating the parasites like ticks and other external parasites, keeping Chuck and his family healthy. So, if Chuck and his family died, we risk losing many other species of animals, birds, plants, and insects relying on Chuck for their survival. Remember, without the keystone, the structure will collapse. A perfect example of keystone collapse is the Yellowstone National Park in the state of Wyoming, USA. Wolves were hunted to extinction in this area about 100 years ago, and this impacted Yellowstone. Without the wolves, the elk and the deer overgrazed the land and the aspen trees. Without the trees, the songbirds and the eagles flew the coop. The beavers could no longer build their dams, so they were sent packing. The streams degraded, and then the willow tree suffered. Without the shade from the plants and the trees, the water temperatures were too high for the cold water fish, so they died, and then the bears were forcefully evicted. In 1995, wolves were reintroduced to the Yellowstone National Park. Within a decade, the wolves took control of the elk and deer populations, allowing the willow and aspen trees to grow. In just 28 years, the mistakes humans made were fixed. So wolves were clearly the keystone species that saved the Yellowstone National Park. It's a win-win situation for all. Around the same time Yellowstone started their efforts, about 10,000 miles away in South Africa, the founder of the Mantis Collection, Adrian Gardner, and the father of the Rewilding of the Eastern Cape, had a very similar vision, and he started the Shamwari Private Game Reserve. Anybody heard of Shamwari? Awesome. But people thought he had lost his marbles when he told them about his dream of rewilding the land. But Adrian, being every bit as badass as Chuck Norris, took eroded, degraded, and abused farmland, and he rewilded it, he recovered it by introducing the Big Five to the Eastern Cape, in the same way the wolves were introduced to Yellowstone National Park. What are the Big Five? The lion, the leopard, the African elephant, the buffalo, and of course, Chucky's family, the rhino. The changes these keystone animals made to the land were unbelievable. This is before, and this is after. This is the same piece of land, by the way, just viewed from opposite sides. Don't you guys think Adrian and the Big Five deserve a high five for that? Absolutely. Adrian is also an admired advocate for expanding our wild places, encouraging more green spaces, and embracing all human and animal races. Even back then, he knew the key to having more keystone species is to have more protected land. And since Adrian started Shamwari, the Eastern Cape has become this hub of private game reserves, all impacting and expanding this area's global significance in terms of biodiversity. Biodiversity simply defines the variety of animals, plants, insects, and microorganisms that make up our natural world. The UN Biodiversity Conference set a global goal for 2030 to have 30% of our planet protected by then. In the Eastern Cape, we set a similar goal, but to have 80% of our land protected. Now, I don't know where the planet is in terms of satisfying that goal, but in the Eastern Cape, in the last 5 years, we have achieved 50% of our goal. I think that deserves another high five. Guys, 7 years from now feels more like a sprint than a marathon. But the bottom line is, whether it's the Yellowstone National Park in the USA, or whether it is the Eastern Cape in South Africa, we have a dire need to expand our wild places, encourage more green spaces, and embrace all human and animal races. If not, we will face irreparable changes to our climate. We are all in this marathon against extinction together. We've seen the magic, the magnificent changes that took place in just 30 years. Now imagine the magic that can happen if all of us started taking small, strategic actions today. I will continue running for Rhinos, and I want to encourage everybody to join me in this marathon and to commit to conservation in one or more of the following ways. Expand our wild places. Choose sustainability over satisfaction. Ditch the single-use plastics. Go for glass, because glass is badass. Say it with me, guys. Glass is badass. Yes. Encourage more green spaces. Let's be water wise. Take shorter showers. Use your grey water. Reclaim it. Water your garden with it. Plant a tree every year on your birthday or on any other day that is significant to you. Plant more if you want to. Embrace all human and animal races. Trash is cash. I know some recycling companies will pay actual cash for trash, so clean it up, sell it, and donate that cash to your favorite conservation organization. Think thrifty. Clothes and gifts don't always have to be new. Your trash is someone else's treasure. And thrifting is so much fun. So, what are we going to do? We're going to expand wild places, encourage more green spaces, and embrace all human and animal races. Ladies and gentlemen, Chuck and his family and all keystone species are relying on us to finish this race strong. Use your legs to run and your voice to speak up. We're on the starting block right now. So, on your marks, get set, let's go. Thank you.